Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us for another edition of DAX Machina. Joining me in the studio tonight is Robbie Rains and Anthony Pitbull Canatella, and we have special guests here tonight. Brandy and Krista from Blondes and Booze have joined us to talk about the wickedness of wicked witches of the West, so to speak, or the wicked witches of the Midwest. In our case, we're Midwest, but we're happy to have them here to join us tonight, and I thought we would talk a moment, let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump right into things with both feet. Brandy, Krista, take it away.
I'm Krista, one of the co-hosts of Blondes and Booze Paranormal podcast, and you can find us on Facebook group also, like us, and we actually, it's kind of funny, we have a show tomorrow night with these same guys, just talking Ed and Lorraine Warren, so.
Part 2.
Pretty cool, yeah, part 2. So we are missing one of our hosts, Erin. So anyway, she'll be on tomorrow night, I believe.
Awesome.
Brandy, and I'm Brandy. And I'm Brandy, and again, I'm a co-host of Blondes and Booze. So come join us there tomorrow night and watch us all do this all over again, except something else.
Slightly different subject.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about before we got started was something that was recently in the news. There was an Amazon driver found dead here in Missouri in Excelsior Springs, which they're calling a dog attack. The reason I do the air quotes like that is because I'm not entirely certain it is. I think we're going to discuss that a minute, and maybe just maybe, you guys might think it might not be a dog attack as well. Well, there's been a rash of dog attacks lately. Some of them fairly obvious it wasn't any normal dog, specifically the ones in Crook County, Tennessee. However, this one I think is going to be another one of those cases where it's going to be fairly obvious it's not a normal dog. I don't think it could have been just a regular dog because of the sheer amount of damage. Now, the reason I bring this up is I know we mentioned on the show it was after the show we did with Brandy and Krista up in Lexington, Missouri, that fall into the supernatural. We were at the Big River Horse Ranch, which is out in the country, kind of in the middle of nowhere, down on a gravel road. And my wife, my son Noah, and his best friend Connor, who's kind of our adopted son, we were all leaving the horse ranch heading for our hotel. And we got about a mile from the horse ranch when something crossed the road in front of us. And we got a good look at it. It wasn't like it just went across the road. We saw it for a split second. It came out of the corn on one side of the road and walked slowly across the road and into the next cornfield, and it watched us the entire time. When it first started coming out of the corn, I thought it was a deer, simply because of how high the head was off the ground and the eye shine. But that's not normal for a deer. When bright lights hit a deer in the dark, the deer usually freeze. There's a reason why there's the phrase "deer in the headlights." But this one didn't. And as we're watching it cross the road, we were doing maybe 20 miles an hour because it was pretty rough. Non-paved road, and as it's slowly crossing the road, it's pretty obvious that the back of this thing is well above the height of the front of my SUV, and unlike a deer, it stared at us. It made eye contact and stared at the car and watched us the entire time it was crossing the road. I don't remember seeing the tail, but I do remember it staring directly at us, and that's predator behavior. That's not a deer, and it didn't walk like a deer. It was like a dark gray color. My wife even said, she said, I don't know what the hell that thing was. I think what we saw across the road in front of us was the Dogman. Now, flash forward to, what is it, about a month ago that we were in Lexington?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Here it is a month later. The incident where the Amazon driver was killed was 27 miles away from where that happened. So also very close to the Missouri River. And we know from other sightings reports along the Missouri River, there's quite a few Dogman sightings up and down the Missouri River, especially around the Hannibal area. Now, since we've got a visual sighting. Myself and 3 others saw this one near Lexington, and then a month later we've got a fatality less than 30 miles away. I don't think it's a huge stretch of the imagination to think that we might have seen the creature that did this, based on the sheer amount of damage that was done to this guy. And Brandy and Krista have some further insight into this that not everybody has heard. Ladies, take it away, please.
Yeah, not really supposed to talk about it.
Well, don't give away any sources. Don't talk anything you're not allowed to say. But
okay, I heard from a source that the body was taken to the local funeral home, and it was like made the funeral director sick. And being a funeral director, they've seen everything, gunshots, everything, but it physically made this funeral director sick. And then we have some people who live in that area that hopefully can hear things going around town that know us and will report back to us. Keeping fingers crossed. I think they will.
Yeah, I watched the.
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared. It scares me because out there at the Big River Ranch, I spent many a nights out there, and many a nights I don't sleep. So I go sit outside, and I can't even tell you how many countless nights I sat out there, by myself. Bigfoot's one thing, that's where I had my Bigfoot encounter, and but a Dogman thing that scares me.
Do they have any idea why this guy was attacked? This Amazon driver was attacked?
They say it was dogs. 2 dogs attacked him.
I know why he was attacked. I think I know why.
What's that?
He was delivering stuff from Chewy's.com.
Well, in a lot of these cases, when they're
referred
to this as dog attacks, they will capture dogs and claim these are the dogs responsible,
right,
and put the dogs down. But necropsies done on the dogs find no human tissue in them. Now, some of the dogs have had human blood on them, but no tissue in their stomach, and that doesn't account for. Well, in the case of one of the female that was killed in Crook County, Tennessee, 40% of her tissue was missing, and there's no human tissue found in the 2 pit bulls that they did the necropsies on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
now, the dogs did have blood on them, but it is within the nature of protective dogs to, if somebody's down, to get up close to them and try to check on them. And pit bulls are very protective. I mean, I've had seen that behavior in my dog.
Well, I did read somewhere, and I don't know if it was my friends that told me, but one of the dogs they said was a German Shepherd and one was a Mastiff. So I know I have an English Mastiff myself, and they are gentle giants. They are not aggressive. And I've had, honest to God, in the last 25 years I used to raise them, I've probably had 15 of them, and I've never had an aggressive one.
We've had several Mastiffs too, and I've never had a Mastiff that was aggressive.
Did we ever hear how long they said that the homeowners were out of town? Did we ever hear how long they'd been out of town?
No, I haven't heard.
Because evidently the 2 dogs had access to go in and out of the house.
Right. And they said that they were being cared for. So somebody, was going over and taking care of the dogs. Here's my thing, even, say a dogman did get the guy, and like you said, DA, they, even lick the blood,
right.
and dogs, I know my dogs will bark, even including my Mastiff, when somebody comes to the door, but he's not going to bite, right. and I heard that at least one of the dogs, I don't know if both, I can't say both, but at least one of the dogs I know was shot at the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, the article I've got pulled up right now, it says, one of the deputies shot and injured one of the dogs. The 2 dogs ran into the home, according to the sheriff. Once Childers arrived on the scene, he walked into the house, and the dogs remained aggressive toward him. They continued to be aggressive, and I had to kill them, said Childers. All evidence on the scene was collected, including the driver's remains and the 2 deceased dogs. An autopsy and necropsy were performed on the driver and the dogs within the next coming days, according to Childers. It's not clear if the dogs caused the death of the unnamed driver, but Childers noted the driver's remains had extensive injuries. We do not know the cause of death yet, but the Amazon driver did have a substantial amount of damage, very similar to that to canine bites.
Yeah. So, and here's the thing too, like those dogs, I just can't imagine an aggressive mastiff. I just can't. And maybe I'm sure there's some out there, but all the ones I've had, I mean, Brandy knows my dog, and
Oh, yeah.
they're gentle giants. They love everybody. I've never had a German Shepherd, so I can't really say about the German Shepherd. But my thinking is, the dogs were in their own house. Of course, they're going to be aggressive. Their owners are not there. They're not going to know these people, all these strangers, all this ruckus is going on. So of course they're going to be aggressive.
That's why you have a dog. That's why you have dogs.
Right.
Exactly. For that
But
reason.
I want to know what they mean by aggressive. See, that's a fine line with me. Aggressive, are they growling at you, or are they trying to bite you? What kind of aggression are we talking here?
Right.
Because if one man went in the house and put down the two dogs, how come he wasn't attacked? How come, they didn't say that he was bitten or anything?
Mm-hmm.
They did, nothing happened. He just went in there and shot the dogs. But if the dogs were being that aggressive, they would have tried to bite anybody.
Right. And I'll tell you what, I got to say, I'd be one pissed off homeowner come home and my dog's dead, when it was protecting its home, because that's what I feel like. If he shot the dog inside, the dog is doing its job.
Right.
It's protecting its home. The dog wasn't
the dogs were on the property of their owners. They were not off running around.
Inside, I think they were inside. They weren't even outside, so.
So the deputy shot the dog inside the house?
Yeah. I believe so.
Dogs were shot and killed inside the house.
Yeah.
Oh, so and that they don't find any evidence in the dog's stomach. That's
if they don't find evidence, they won't admit it.
Major lawsuit. Major lawsuit.
Yeah. Because I'll tell you what, I love my dogs like family, and I'd be really ticked off.
Mine too.
One of my dogs were shot.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why I have them. I have pit bulls for that reason too. You can break into the house. If you get past me, you got to deal with three pits.
Well, in this case, pit bulls aren't taking the rap. It's a German Shepherd and a Mastiff.
Right.
Yeah.
So good thing for pit bulls.
So atypical of a Mastiff. When my boys were little, they used to walk up to my Mastiffs and they'd take food out of the dog's mouth while it was eating, and they just look at him like, "What'd you do that for?"
Right.
The boys would lay on the floor and watch Saturday morning cartoons with their heads on the dog.
Right.
He'd lay there like a big pillow. We've never had an aggressive bone out of either of those Mastiffs. Just fantastic dogs. So it's very out of character for that.
Well, I've come across German Shepherds that have been aggressive. Now, I'm not going to say that they're nice. It all depends on the owners and how they treated them, and we all know the story. And they have been aggressive, but a Mastiff, the stories on a Mastiff are very few and far between.
The things with German Shepherds is most of them that are aggressive, they're aggressive for a reason. They're very loyal and very protective. I've had probably 15 or 20 German Shepherds, and they're going to be aggressive, like Krista said, somebody that comes into the house that they don't know, but
they're going to protect their own, sure.
Yeah, but none of my German Shepherds have ever been aggressive towards anybody that they knew, or maybe somebody that the first time that they met them. But
and maybe I'm thinking offline here. I don't know. Just tell me if I am. But okay. So if Dogman is around, them dogs, they were not found outside. They were in the house.
Right.
Which leads me to believe there is a reason why, if they had a doggy door, the dogs were not outside. They knew something weird could have been out there. I'm not saying that's what it was, but it's just stuff like that goes through my head, thinking, why weren't the dogs outside? There's people in its yard. There's a reason them dogs weren't out there.
And it's another one of those situations where it really kind of makes me wonder. One, because of the proximity of that sighting that we had, and the other because of these. If the dogs were inside a fence, maybe the Amazon driver went in. It doesn't say where they found the body. Did the dogs have access to where?
Yes, they did. They said the body was found in between, halfway in between the truck and the house. So I don't know. I just can't imagine that dogs would take down a driver. I mean, because I don't know about anybody else, but I'd be kicking and screaming. I'd get myself back to that truck one way or another.
You bet.
You know, if it were just if it were just two dogs. Now I may look really gnarly by the time I get there, but I'm gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
there are just so many empty spaces they have to fill in,
Yeah.
and if they can't prove that it was the dogs, I'm sure they'll never say otherwise.
Yeah, and that's one of those ones, much like in Crook County, Tennessee. I mean, I've got the autopsy reports on those two people that were killed there.
Mm-hmm.
Consider the female had a 40% loss of tissue. 40%.
Awful.
And it had only been a couple hours. There's no way a couple of pit bulls ate 40% of a human in just a
No.
couple hours.
No way. No.
Wow.
So, you know, when you said that the funeral director had never seen a body in that bad a shape, it would have taken a considerable amount of time for dogs to do that much damage to a person.
Yeah, well, I did hear that there was going to be an autopsy performed, although we'll probably never hear about it or hear the truth about it. But, you know, take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting whether or not they actually say. Because if it turns out the dogs don't have any tissue in their stomach, are they going to admit that? Or are they just going to say, yeah, we was the dogs?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So we'll see.
Probably one.
Yeah, they're just gonna say that the dogs were aggressive. That's why they had to put them down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody will ever know the real truth.
Right. You're exactly right. Yep.
But you know, that's the breaking news, so to speak. You know, was it the dogs? Maybe. I mean, you know, we don't know. The thing about it is what we're seeing is a disturbing pattern with news reports of dog attacks all over the Midwest. I mean, especially in Kentucky and Tennessee. There was one. It was a 13-year-old kid that they found he'd been taken from his own yard, and they found him up the side of a steep bluff that the people that were searching for him could barely climb. I don't care. I don't know what kind of dog would drag a kid up the side of a bluff like a mountain goat. That's just not normal.
No.
There's things in a lot of these stories that are just so oddly inconsistent, and it's easy to blame dogs. And then we never hear anything else. You know, one of the cases in LBL they said was an unknown canine attack, and this guy was ripped apart. So it's very easy to sweep stuff like this under the rugs and blame dogs.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I'm not saying it's, you know, every time we get a dog attack story that it's a Dogman. I'm not saying that. You know, there are cases when dogs will just snap and attack people. You know, we've seen it happen, but it's uncharacteristic for a Mastiff to do that. Now, German Shepherds are territorial. And you know, if the guy came in their yard inside a fenced-in area to drop off a package, it might have gone after him. So this simply could be a case of a dog attack. I'm just saying that there's enough inconsistencies in what they're saying, and the fact of our sighting less than 30 miles away makes me think there's going to be a lot more to this than we're know. Especially since the funeral director had never seen anything that bad in his life.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So, you know, my friend that told me about that, she was at another friend's funeral there, and this was last night, and she knows some of the people that work there at the funeral home, and that's what they told her. So, and you know, when she sent me this article, first thing that run through my head when I was reading it, obviously I didn't tell my friends because they're not, you know, into really the cryptid type thing, but was the Dogman thing, and then that's when I think I messaged UDA about that.
Yeah, and I immediately started looking at it like, okay, that's really freaking close to where we were.
Yeah.
Karen Peterson says, what breed of Mastiff was it? The article doesn't say.
It just says Mastiff. Mm-hmm. I'd be curious to know. I mean, there are different breeds in the Mastiffs that, you know, are a little more aggressive. I know, like the
Boer Bells tend to be a bit aggressive.
Are a little bit more aggressive. Not that they're bad dogs, but, you know, that they're, you know, a little more. The Italian, you know, Mastiff is what the Cane Corso is, and they're known for that. So.
Yeah, so the article doesn't say what type of mastiff, but if it was a English or a bull mastiff, I have experience with both.
Yeah.
And bull mastiffs were gamekeepers' dogs. They were bred not to maul the target. They were bred to pin it down and wait so the gamekeeper could come and catch them in the
Right.
act.
Right.
So bull mastiffs are not trained, or were not bred to be that aggressive. They're bred to bite and hold.
Yeah.
Yeah, DA, go ahead and X-nay.
Yeah.
Yeah, take him.
Say the same thing.
Hey, I'm done. I'm finished.
I was
You
just going to
guys-
say something.
You guys should be able to do it. I don't even see the comment.
I can't. Won't let me.
It won't let me either. Let me see if I can do it from my phone, but I know what you're talking about, and I just
Hold on. Let me see. Yeah,
I got
him. Got him.
Okay.
I got him.
Yeah, I knew you guys you guys both have co-host status. You should be able to take care of anything like that just as quick as I can.
Robbie, go ahead and do it.
I did it. I got it.
Okay.
I tried to do it through my phone. I could.
Robbie got it.
Okay.
Yeah, because enough's enough already.
Mm-hmm.
He's finished. I can't. I'm not going to deal with that either.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
Sorry,
anyway.
guys. I'm over here I'm on here with you. Otherwise, I'd be on there with my
No
little
problem.
rooms.
She's on the phone. I'm on my laptop.
No, it was just some stupid comments that were coming up
Yeah.
that shouldn't came up.
All my comments just totally disappeared.
Yeah. I wasn't blocking you. Yeah, that was not called for. Robbie is right.
That the fact that happened here in Missouri, and it happened within 30 miles of where we had our sighting, is just something that really gave me pause. Especially, when you sent that article to me, I was like, "Whoo, how close is that?" And then I Googled it. I'm like, "Wow, that's not far considering the range that mountain lions have. 30 miles is nothing to a big predator.
Right.
Mountain lions may range as much as 200, 220 miles."
Yeah, and it's only been a month since we've been there. So, yeah,
Yeah.
If
it could be definitely possible.
what we saw was crossing the road, and I can't say with 100% distinction that it was definitely a Dogman, but it wasn't a deer, it wasn't a dog unless it was a 400-pound dog, because my SUV sets up pretty high. It's not like a monster truck or anything, but this thing's back would have been easily 6 inches to a foot taller than the hood of my SUV. So it was big. It made eye contact with us and watched the headlights the entire time, which deer don't do. It was a dark gray color, and the way it moved like a large canine. Yeah, even my wife's like, I had no idea what the hell that was, and I started to slow down to look, and she's like, "Don't you slow this car down."
Right. I don't blame her. I don't blame her.
I had reached onto my side and pulled my pistol out, was getting ready to roll the window down. She's like, "No, don't you stop this car."
That's kind of like something stupid I was doing. We were in Joplin, and we went out to see the spook lights. It's paranormal phenomena. Anyway, we were out there, and of course, I'm last in line. Well, I'm getting dusted in my little car. I didn't have my Jeep. I had my little car, and I'm just getting dusted. So I'm like, you know what? I need to slow down because I can't see a thing. I slowed down, and I rolled down my window, and I'm just looking, and next thing you know, I hear these. It sounded like 2 gigantic steps, and I mean breaking these limbs, just breaking these limbs. And I thought, oh, and the forest was too dense for it to be any type of cattle or anything like that, because these ranchers get mad if they get their cattle up in these trees because they can't get them out. So I'm thinking, okay. And so I'm slowing down to try and look, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm in this car by myself. What am I thinking? So I'm like, I rolled up my window. I said, I'm out of here. I'm gone. I'm leaving.
It was
So
like
I
last.
I think she had a Bigfoot encounter and she doesn't
Oh yeah.
realize that.
it may have been. I mean, because they've been spotted out there, and
Yeah.
I was looking it up, and I thought maybe could be a bear, because they did have some black bear out there, but they hadn't seen one in that area for over 2 years. So it very well could have been.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Last year when I went to LBL, I was supposed to be meeting Nick Valente, the Region 3 director of NADP, and I got there before him. In fact, I got there almost 2 days before him, and I was trudging around all over north end LBL all by myself, and went in there that first night I was there, and Annette and my son Nick were back at the condo we'd rented, and I got out of the van near Nichols Cemetery, and I was walking around, and I hear like movement in the bushes, and I wasn't even recording at the time. I was just walking around, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not carrying a gun, and I'm out here all by myself.
It's one of those moments.
Yeah,
like,
would you look at the time?
Where did my brain go?
I'm like, maybe I should just go back to the condo for the rest of the night. I really don't need to be in here by myself after dark.
No kidding.
But I do want to go back. I'm hoping
It's
I
one of those
go
you didn't
back
really think it through
next
when you
month.
did it.
Right, yeah, it was one of those, hey, this is probably not the best place for you to be alone and unarmed.
Are you gonna go back with who next month?
That's the plan. We're looking at renting a condo at that same place. We stayed at a place called the Green Turtle Bay Resort. I highly recommend it. We got our own little cabin, and it was just literally right across the canal from the north end of LBL. So it was easy to just pop over into LBL and do what I was going to do, and then go back and sleep someplace that wasn't on the ground.
Good deal.
I don't think I'd sleep on the ground out there at all.
No, I don't think I would sleep in a tent in LBL. I just don't think I would do it.
And
No.
I'd be kind of sketchy about a camper too.
You'd what?
Yeah,
I'd be kind of sketchy about a camper. I don't know.
I can't pronounce Chad's last name there. I don't even want to try. It says that's where I was camping near the Hotel California on the lake, a stone's throw away from the cemetery. I went down to the area around Nichols Cemetery, and then I went down into Demumbers Bay in the dark, out there by myself, and that was one of those coming to Jesus moments when, like, I'm out here, I have no cell phone coverage, my phone's not working, and my gun, because I didn't carry a firearm in there because there were signs that said no firearms. Yeah, I may not be paying attention to that next time. So, but I plan on going back, but I think I'm going to carry more than a camera next time.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. There's no way you couldn't even pay me to go to the LBO without packing.
No.
No.
Well, I won't make that mistake.
Packing a few things.
Yeah. I like living.
Yeah. I like to eat and all kinds of stuff. So,
Not be eaten.
Right.
Right, exactly.
I don't want to hear some dogman off in the woods do that line from Lord of the Rings. Looks like meat back on the menu, boys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we did kind of gather this together to talk about witches and witchcraft. So I wanted to talk about that Amazon driver because it's literally current events. It just happened, and this is our first show since it happened, and I really wanted to talk about that for a minute. And when we because Krista and Brandy both knew about our sighting right there by the ranch.
Oh,
I
yeah.
told them about that, and to have that literally 30 miles, less than 27.4 miles away, according to Google. And that's by road. If you went straight line through the woods, it's probably considerably less. So within the range of a big predator. And I just found it really, really coincidental.
I did too.
I'll be watching the news in the coming days to see if any more mention is made of those dogs. And that'll be telling. If there's human tissue found in the dogs, they'll make a big deal out of it.
Right.
If there's not, they won't mention it again.
Yep. And here's the thing too is, they're not mentioning anything about the victim,
Right.
about, an age, male,
Condition.
female,
Right.
nothing, no family, So, I mean, like, there's got to be something. Why wouldn't they by now? Because I looked to see if I could see it tonight, and there was nothing about the victim.
Right.
And
Yeah.
usually they say, is survived by, children or wife
Right.
or husband or something, and nothing,
Well, we know for a fact the body was in extremely bad condition.
Yep.
And to me, that just does not say dog attack.
Right.
Because, and especially if they don't ever say anything about the dogs having anything in their stomach.
Mhm.
James Jenkins says 870 slugs minimum, 12 gauge Remington 870 with 12 gauge slugs. That's my old lieutenant from when he's listening to us tonight. Hey, LT, how you doing, brother? But yeah, I 100% agree. You want to carry something heavy, especially if you're going into LBL. But yeah, the coincidence of the sighting, the closeness, the proximity, and the fact that they're being very guarded about the details just leads me to believe there may be more going on than we know.
Right.
We'll know
and
in the
keep
near
in mind
future.
too, like Ray County, that's a small county. It's not. There's no big, huge towns or
Right.
anything like that. So it's very rural out there.
John Doe put out a good point. He said more emphasis was placed on the environment and the dogs than on the victim.
Yep.
Correct.
Yeah. So, and to me, that's telling right there.
Yeah, I agree.
So, could it have been the dogs? Absolutely. Yes, it could have been the dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We are not saying that that this is just a cover up and the dog. There's no way it was the dogs. It's entirely possible it was the dogs, but there's inconsistencies. There's some omissions of a lot of details, like the
Yep.
fact that how bad the body was damaged, and the proximity of that sighting. So yeah, could be something else. This could be a cover up. And it's not the first time a Dogman has been seen along the Missouri River.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
That's scary.
So let's talk witches and witchcraft. We'll jump subjects and actually get onto the topic. We'll embrace the topic tonight. So
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I know the two of you are far more versed on the paranormal side than I am. I'm starting to branch more into the paranormal, but I've always been on the cryptid side.
Mm-hmm.
Would either of you like to take the lead and just kind of give us a brief history before we jump in?
Go for it, Brandy.
Well, you can't really sum it up. It's a super wide history. I mean, we're talking about witches from, oh my gosh. Okay, let's just start off with Joan of Arc. Let's just go with her. A lot of people didn't know that when she started fighting and dressing as a man and all that kind of stuff, that she was actually hearing voices telling her to fight the British. After she had won a couple battles and all of that, she was caught later on when she was approximately about 19 years old. She was 19 years old, and she was basically convicted of being a witch because she was hearing these voices in her head to say, fight the British. So they burned her at stake. So, I mean, and I think that she was burned like, oh gosh, 1408 or something like that. I don't get me lying, but I know it's like 1400 something. So but witches have been around for just centuries.
And here's the thing, like as Brandy said, Joan of Arc, she was hearing voices. It doesn't mean that she necessarily was a witch. She could have had some abilities, obviously, like she was maybe clairaudient, where she was hearing these voices, and it was truly, her spirit guides or something, guiding her too. That we'll never know.
Yeah, or it could have been disembodied voices. Disembodied voices are spirits that you can hear out loud. They're audible. Like I said, this goes on and on.
Or she could have been crazy as hell. I don't know. It could have been one of them.
Could have been that too.
Bipolar. Could have been bipolar schizophrenic.
Lost.
What? See, I got it too. What's going on? See, I mean, I hear voices too, so it doesn't,
Yes, but you're just off your meds.
Yeah, I know.
Right. Right.
This article says she was burned at the stake on the 30th of May, 1431.
Right.
Yeah, I see that somebody
Salem.
said that she thought she was talking to God. Well, who knows? Who knows who she was talking to or what voices she was hearing?
Right.
It's just written in history that she was hearing voices, whether it to her they were God or
Well,
they were someone else or something else.
Right.
She
wasn't
was
it the
just
witch
hearing
trials?
voices.
The witch trials of Salem. That's what really set it off, though. Wasn't that really what really set off?
Well,
hunting
actually,
witches?
I believe in England, there was something that happened before the Salem witch trials.
Okay,
if remember
I don't
correctly.
know.
Yeah.
But I don't know the whole story, so I can't really elaborate.
From what I read today, the Salem witch trials kicked off after it kind of started dying down in Europe,
Yeah.
and the what really kicked it off here in the U.S. was, we were going through the French and Indian War, we were fighting the British, smallpox was going around, so
Right.
basically they needed a scapegoat, and that's where things like that started. Things like Brandy and Chris were talking about, people that were they were healers or
Hedge
claimed that they were
witches.
here. Yeah, that's where all that the Salem, but all the stuff in Europe had kind of started dying down as far as the big witch hunts and all that. It already started dying down at the point that Salem actually kicked off.
You've got a long tradition of witchcraft throughout Europe. You've got the ancient druids. You've got different, like I was saying, hedge witches. You've got old saga healers. I mean, there's witches mentioned in Shakespeare. There's witches mentioned the Norns in Norse mythology. There are witches mentioned in pretty much all of European lore. Baba Yaga, the witch that would hunt children. Then you started bringing in other stuff. I mean, Celtic tradition has one thing. Then you've got the Voodoo. You've got all the African and
Santeria and all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, somebody who was very
subgroups of those.
Yeah, somebody who was very famous in Louisiana.
Marie Laveau.
Marie Laveau, exactly. She was the one who basically brought what's called the grease bags. They're called grease bags.
I mentioned
And
that in the book.
they would carry like amulets or have spells with them to bring you good luck or to give to somebody bad luck, or they could have all types of meanings, but she became famous for those.
Right.
She was very famous for those. They said that she was practicing witchcraft quite, for a long time until she had a kind of a tiff with another person who was supposedly practicing witchcraft. Well, they convicted her of being a witch and threw her in jail. So, but she got out, but she practiced until she was 80 years old when she passed away. She never gave it up. She just kept practicing and going to it. And she's one of the most famous voodoo witchcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's she's one of the most famous ones in our history.
Yeah.
For the voodoo.
And that's not even the only example. I mean, tracing its origins even to modern times, you've got the roots of Wicca, which trace their origins back to the the hedge witches of old and things like that. And Wicca is more of a movement now, more of a religion than it is true magic, but it still draws its roots from these old traditions.
Yeah. And I don't feel like, like Wicca is bad, because I do know people who.
It can be, depending on how they practice it.
Right. And I do know good people who do practice Wicca, but they do, the white light, not the dark, It's pretty interesting, really, to listen and talk to them.
What was that witch's name? Okay, we're going to go back because pretty much everybody's seen the Blair Witch Project. Her name was Molly. Oh my goodness, I can't remember. She's the one they call the Blair Witch.
Broomhilda. I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
I'm trying to think of it right now. It was on the tip of my tongue. Oh geez, I hate when that happens. Brain fart.
Samantha? Was it Samantha? I mean, they got to make light of it. Everybody's so serious with this.
They talked about they talked about her and were accusing her of performing witchcraft and all that kind of stuff, and they ended up chasing her out of her own home. So,
Wow.
yeah,
Molly,
it's
Molly Brown.
no.
No, she
No,
wrote Titanic, I think.
Yeah.
Oh. Barbara
can't
said
think of her
Molly
name
Brown.
right
I'm like,
now.
okay.
You get me talking about witches, and there's so many.
Mhm.
Hang on, I'll look real quick because I really want to know because it's very strange, and a lot of people have seen the movie, but they think it's all fiction.
The Blair
And,
Witch, Ellie Kedward, terrorized the town of Blair, now Burkittsville, during the late 1700s and was executed for her crimes.
was that her name? I got her mixed up with somebody.
Is this it right here?
Somebody says Ella Kedward.
Yeah.
Could that be it?
Yeah, that's what I found in
Could
the
that be
article.
it? See,
Ella Kedward.
there's just so many.
Ellie, E-L-L-Y, Kedward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edward. Okay. All right. Then there is another one. Oh my God, Molly. What was she about? This has been a long time since I've got into witches and their history, and there's so many. I'm trying to look it up right here. Oh my goodness.
There
But
was a over here
go
in
ahead.
St. Charles, Missouri, where I live. There's a witch who supposedly, you know how legends go, but part
Right.
of her was put on the one side of the Missouri River. Another part of her was put on the other side. And then there's Molly's grave, and she was known to be a witch. And, you know, when we were in high school, we used to go there. Nothing ever happened to me, but supposedly to friends that I went to high school with. But supposedly she was a witch. And, you know, so was it her you were thinking about?
It might
Molly
have been.
Crenshaw. Molly
It might have
Crenshaw
been.
was her name.
Hey, tell him about the witch's grave there at in Ashmore.
I don't know the whole story behind that. I can't really tell without being, you know.
Well, there's a few stories and nobody really knows. But there was a woman who was killed for being a witch, and they had buried her in the cemetery. Well, before she was killed, she said that she was going to come back on the anniversary of her death date
Yeah.
and curse everybody.
Mm.
So for some reason, when they put her name and her birth date and her death date, they made her death date, what was it, February 31st or something like that?
Yeah, date that don't
It was
even
something like that. It
exist.
was like February 31st, so she could never come back and curse anybody.
Oh.
Mhm. Yeah.
Very strange
smart
how
person.
superstition falls into it a lot.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of stories around that. Some say that the person who was making the tombstone made a mistake or whatever. But like I
It's
said,
been
it's
a
a
long
better
time since I heard the story, you know.
yeah,
when I-
it's a better story when you say that they did it on purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a better
That's pretty
story.
smart thinking if that was the case.
Right.
Yeah, you know, that's what I thought too. And it's the actual tombstone itself it's like a sphere, and it's huge, and it's sitting on a pedestal. And people come and they leave gifts for them all the time around this. They leave gifts for her. You see feathers and money, and we were out there one time, and there was candy and just little things, jewelry, stuff it all into this little platform that they have sitting by that sphere that it sits on, and it's really a neat thing. And
Well,
it's sitting right back in a cemetery where it's a 1 lane in and a 1 lane out. It's like you have to watch who's coming in and out, but if you blink, you're going to miss it because there's only a little, I would say a 2 by 2 foot sign, and then you're going to miss it.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a pretty cool story. I mean, that would be one to look up and look into, because like I said, there's so many different versions of it.
Mhm.
But I would like to think that somebody really messed up and put February 31st on purpose.
There, there was something similar with Marie Laveau's tomb down in New Orleans. People are always leaving gifts at her grave, her above ground little tomb, and they're saying if you leave a gift she particularly likes, you may find yourself the benefit of one of her spells even from beyond. So there's a long history of witchcraft in this country and beyond. Of course, you can include shamanic traditions like the Native Americans practice. Even skinwalkers can be traced back to a form of witchcraft, generally very, very dark witchcraft. But when I started looking into this, I was astounded that it's not really like just one source. It's like lots of tendrils shooting off into different spaces. Of course, you've got the shamanic traditions. You've got voodoo. You've got Santeria. Those both trace their origins back to the Dominican Republic, India, Africa. Then you've got the Druids, which are Celtic of origin. They even believe that Stonehenge was built by the Druids. It's astounding just how far these traditions go. And my great aunt was a known Hedge witch. Her name was Exie Rumbaugh, and Xie. That's how it was spelled. And it was said that my mother told me, I never met her. She passed away before I was born. But my mother said she could lay her hands on her dining room table and make it walk across the room.
Oh,
Wow.
Never got to meet the lady. She passed away long before I was born, but I've heard a lot of stories about her. And people would go to her if they had ailments and stuff like that, and she would make herbal remedies for a lot of ailments that people had.
Well, I guess even you don't think about it until you start talking about stuff like this. My great grandfather could talk the fire out of people. People would come to him and break it down to its root causes. I mean, I guess that's a form of witchcraft.
Right. Well, they say like people with abilities, that mediumship or psychics, back in the day, they were persecuted as being witches. That's, and they weren't bad people. They just had abilities, and they really did hear things. So
you don't think about it when you're a kid. I spent half my life or my early childhood over there because my mom worked, my grandparents worked still, so they kept me. And I can't tell you how many people would come to my great grandfather if they got really bad burn or if they were sick or whatever. And I sat and watched him do this, and you don't think about it as a kid, but
right. Well, and here's the thing too. Back then, they wouldn't come out and really talk about it because they would be put in some of these like insane asylums and things like that. So
or burned at the stake,
right.
Or hung.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, the history of how people with abilities down through the centuries, is pretty dark. You see, if somebody was able to accurately predict the future or cure a disease, then you got someone would say, "Oh, that's a witchcraft," and then they'd be attacked or driven out or stoned. And I don't mean I mean lighting something up. I mean large stones thrown at them.
Right.
It's kind of a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Stuff.
Well, we have to remember too that it just hasn't been women in history that have been persecuted and convicted. It's been men too. Unfairly. They were convicted unfairly, but that's with most. It's just crazy though, because history has just, for some reason, women have always been the major target.
Well,
and I don't know why that is.
Well, it's to me, it's a case of the fact that most women are more sensitive to things like that than men. It's more rare among men to have that kind of a gift. My wife and my youngest son have it. I am a psychic brick. I don't. Yeah, you might as well be talking to a brick wall to get me to notice something like that.
Yeah,
it's got to be absolutely crystal clear and obvious before I'll notice it. I don't get those. When I got that feeling at the cemetery, that's rare for me.
Right.
had to have been something very strong. My wife we can drive by that area and she knows it's there.
Hmm.
Uh, but to me,
Yeah.
it's got to hit me in the face. So I
Well,
think
a lot of
historically
the
it's been
time,
more women that had that gift.
yeah. Well, a lot of time though, this stuff is hereditary. It runs in family lines. Like Robbie, you said what, your grandfather or great grandfather?
My
Do
great
you,
grandfather.
you
Yeah.
know, do you feel things even like, I know you're a police officer. Do you know in your gut what you're walking into? Or, when you meet someone, do you know if you like them immediately, type thing?
Yeah. I've never thought of it as being anything other than just, like me and DA would call it cop senses, or you get that police bone humming when you figure out something bad's about to
Mhm.
go
Right.
down. Just a
Right.
sixth sense type thing.
When I was a corrections officer, I
Never
could walk
ended up
into a
having any kind
pod.
of abilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can walk into a pod and look at the other officer and go, "We're gonna fight tonight. We're gonna have a problem." How do you know? I can just feel it.
Yeah.
And most
See,
of the time, I was right.
that is a form of ability though, because it's your gut telling you, it's what is it, Brandy? Like clairsentience or something like that?
Yeah. It's something like that. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but yeah,
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
My thing
I-
is like when I meet someone, like immediately I know what their character is, whether they're a decent person or not. And I believe a lot of police officers have that too.
I got very good at reading people, and not like I don't think it was anything psychic. It's just because I studied their behavior so closely, and I attribute that to spending 10 years as a corrections officer. You walk among criminals, you start noticing stuff, and
Yeah.
I spent 10 years of walking and talking to these guys, and it got to where I could read body language. I could tell by their look in their eyes if something was up, and you could feel the tension in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got very good at predicting when I was going to have a problem in my pod. But to me, it was just a matter of reading body language. I don't think it was anything supernatural. It's just being observant.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
who knows? There might be something more to it. I've always been very good at reading people.
Yeah. And maybe there is something more to it because I feel like, what you said, you're good at reading people, but you felt it in the air or whatever, I mean, that's an ability. You just know something's not right,
Well, I think back in the
witch.
day that it was just mass hysteria. I think that's what it
Yeah.
was. I mean, somebody saw somebody else doing something they didn't particularly like or didn't know exactly why they were doing it. They would just say they were a witch. Well, then that's how everything got started. And then, oh no,
Right.
they're a witch too. And then they're a witch. But I honestly think the reason why women are specifically targeted is because what we lovingly call them today, I call them kitchen witches. Kitchen witches are the ones that use the herbs and the spices and everything to make home remedies and things like that. Just to keep you healthy and happy and all that kind of good stuff. Just like if I were to make you chicken soup when you had a cold, here, eat this. This will make you feel better. Well, I might have been called a witch.
Yeah.
Just because I made you chicken soup because it would make you feel better.
Right.
Well, you've got what they refer to as old wives' tales passed down through generations. Like one we were just pointing out the other day. My wife and I, we were coming in the house, and my son Nick was with us, and I looked down and I saw a woolly worm on the ground, and it was completely black. And my wife says, old wives' tale says it's going to be a bad winter if you're seeing completely black woolly worms. And my son's like, that's bull crap. I don't believe that. But I don't know. I've seen it before.
I believe Annette is right. Yep.
Yeah, that was pretty common as a kid. My mom or somebody would point out, hey, the woolly worms are completely black, and we'd have a bad winter that year.
Yep. I still believe that. And I still believe the persimmons, what kind of winter you're going to have,
They said this year the persimmons have what they call the spoon shape inside them.
Yeah. So we'll be
That's
digging out of snow. Yep.
So it's going to be a bad year?
Yeah. Go ahead, Robbie. Sorry.
As a hunter, you can tell things like that too. Just like look at this. I've always chalked it up just being observant, but if you notice the oak trees are dropping a lot more acorns, there's a lot more acorns on the ground, think, okay, we're going to have a bad winter because there's more food being dropped for the deers and squirrels and all that stuff. So you know that you're not going to see as much. You're not going to be able to catch them on food plots because things like that. So I mean, yeah, like I said, you know, is it just being observant or is it?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Right. You don't know.
Well, these old wives' tales, there's a reason that they're still handed down, because a lot of times that wisdom is still very, very relevant. It's very true. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of some of those old wives' tales, but you know, they just come to you at odd times. That old wisdom was passed down through these quote unquote old wives'
Right.
tales, and it generally is pretty accurate.
Right. It is. That's, like goes back to the Farmer's Almanac,
Yeah, I put a lot of stock in the Farmer's Almanac.
Yep, I do too.
Hey, that's a witch guide.
Heck yeah.
That's a witch guide. They're predicting the future. It's a witch guide.
But I don't, years ago, people would, the word witch brought up such negative connotations. But the older I've gotten, the more I've read, the more I've seen. Like, for example, I really didn't put a whole lot of stock in psychics when I was younger.
Mhm.
Just didn't. And when I started talking to Jessica Jones, I told her flat out when I had her on the show, I'm a pretty big skeptic about this remote viewing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm nothing, no offense. I just, I'm really kind of undecided on how I feel about it. And her and I talked for about an hour off the show. And she did a remote viewing on where I was at in LBL, and she was telling me stuff I didn't tell other people.
Yeah.
So I was like, hang on a second here.
Yeah.
And then, of course, talking to y'all when we were up in Lexington and talking to Aaron, I've got a much better understanding of what this is. And to me, it's really kind of broadened my horizons. That's why I asked you guys about that cemetery, because even I felt the kind of oppressive loneliness there.
Right.
I would love to get you guys down there and get you guys to check it out.
Yep. Give us a date. We'll be there.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah, we need to set that up. I want to wait until the last time I went down there, my son and I both got ate up by chiggers. So I'm waiting until we get a good frost and it kills those damn things off, because I had red spots all over my legs for weeks.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I want to go down there when the bugs ain't so plenty.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to
First
get
part
you
of
guys down there.
December.
There
Yep.
you go.
You
That's
know,
the best time to go
thing-
camping too, when the bugs are gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My thing on psychics, there are a lot of out there that, I take with a grain of salt. But I will tell you, I am a believer in Jessica Jones. We also had her on our show, and she's legit. I mean, she truly is. And then, Erin, of course, our partner, she's pretty good too. So there's about 5 of them out there that, I believe that, they probably would have been, persecuted and hanged because they're that good,
Little Patty says, Cajun folklore, if you place an open pocket knife under the mattress of someone in pain, it'll cut the pain in half. That's really cool. I'd never heard that
Interesting.
before.
I never
Wait
heard
a
that
minute.
either.
Wait. I'm going to find a knife. It's going to happen.
There you go. Maybe that's worth a
Put it
shot.
under my
Cajun relatives, I've
mattress.
never heard that one before.
I haven't either, but I'm going to try it.
Just here
Yeah.
and there, 66 says, an owl hooting outside your house for 3 nights, someone will be sick or die. Yeah, in a lot of Native American tribes, the owl is a messenger of death.
Mhm.
I know with the Cheyenne, and I believe the Lakota, the owl is a messenger of death. But I've always put a lot of faith in Native American lore. Ever since I was a kid, because my uncle, who was like a second dad to me, was Cherokee. He was full-blood Cherokee. He married my mother's sister. And he was the inspiration for the character of Jay Matoska in my books, because Uncle Buddy was just that good of a guy. But he could tell you so much about the environment just by studying the plants. It was amazing. He taught me how to track. He was the one that taught me how to field dress a deer. I learned so much from him, and a lot of it was not even about things like
Right.
that. It was just about life.
Yep.
And that's why I enjoy my conversations with William Nighthawk, because I get his perspective on things. And talking to him reminds me in a lot of ways of talking to my uncle.
Right.
But I do put a lot of faith in a Native American lore. That's why I asked William to make me a spirit bag for when I'm going into some of these places, um, because some of these places have a very negative feel to them.
Right.
Land Between the Lakes, the entire time I was there, it had that weird feeling. And if when I go back, I want to be a little more prepared than I was last time.
And honestly, that's a place that you need to be prepared. You need to, and whatever stones or whatever he's making for you, getting together for you, definitely worth it, because our friends that went the other night, they had some experiences, and I wouldn't want to be without my protection stones with what they went through.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
hmm
And considering the number of people that have gone missing in LBL,
right.
yeah, there's and even the Native American lore of that area talked about black magic, dating back centuries. So we've got these Native American legends of this area that's dark magic. We've got modern day people going missing, and there's even rumors of cults operating in and out of that area.
Right.
So there's a lot of bad juju in and around that area.
hmm
So that's just another layer on the levels of witchcraft and magic that's operating today.
Right. And I'm gonna let me read something to you. Speaking of witchcraft, so the Pentagon, everybody said it's a sign of the devil.
Mhm.
And a lot of religions use it. I know the pagans and stuff use the Pentagon or pentagram, but it's it
Close enough.
What's that?
I said close enough.
Yeah, close enough.
Pentagon, pentagram, it's all bad.
Whatever. You knew what I meant. But anyway, the pentagram predates Christianity and Satan, and actually stands for the 5 points of man. That is heads, 2 arms, 2 legs. It is also a symbol of great elements of life: earth, air, fire, and water, plus the 5th element, spirit. So it's not like what people have made it out to be, like a demonic, type symbol. It's used in witchcraft, but it's used for like the good part, the white witches, that with the elements of the ground and the earth and the air and that kind of thing.
Invocation magic.
Right. So I thought that was interesting, because everybody says, the pentagram is used for, devil worshiping, and that's not true. So
Well, I mean, they have adapted it and used it, so that's not an untrue statement.
The way to know what kind of pentagram it is that the very top point, if it is pointing up,
the way it's shaped,
it's good.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
If it's pointing up,
Exactly.
it's good.
You are
if
correct.
it's pointing down, the one point pointing down is bad.
Right.
So an upside down star is basically what it is.
So that kind of goes in with, the witchcraft thing, because, the white witches, the good witches, they do use the pentagram, but like, as Randy said, it's the way it's pointed. So,
So even like in Australia, the Aborigines in Australia have practiced a form of witchcraft down through the centuries. What they refer to as dream time, to me, is just essentially astral projection. Being able to enter this state where they're able to travel long distances in their mind, and it's pretty amazing stuff. I don't know as much as I would like to know about Australian Aboriginal magic. It's something I intend to look into more, but it's just another strand in the web. Everywhere you go, there's some sort of caste of people or a holy person in the group that is considered to be a shaman or a healer or something like that, something along those lines. And of course, you've got the other end of the spectrum where every group of people, they have their dark witches. They've got their people that that put curses on people, bad juju, bad medicine, whatever they want to call it. But even the Native American, you've got skinwalkers, you've got dark shamans, you've got these dark and light versions of the magic. And there was a time in my life when I would have just dismissed the possibility of magic being out there. It was something that you would hear about only in Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. But it may not be as powerful as it once was, but it still can have a very interesting effect on people's life. Like for example, the movie The Serpent and the Rainbow. You remember that movie?
Yes. Yes.
That is a prime example. Was it magic, or was it simply this guy's subconscious believing that this magic was going to work and therefore did it to him? The same thing with voodoo zombies. Are they really under a spell, or just they believe so much that spell that's cast on them is going to do that they become a zombie? At some point, you've got to say, I don't think this is just all mental. I don't think this is them believing this can happen, because people that live down in around New Orleans and that area will tell you, if somebody puts a curse on you, they take that crap very, very seriously, and they should.
Yep. But here again, too, curses can be broke too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I carry an evil eye around for that problem. When somebody wants to be negative or send negative vibes to me, I wear an evil eye, and it's supposed to send it right back to the person who's sending it to you. So it's kind of like, what do they call that? What is that they say? The rubber and the glue.
Yeah. I'm rubber and you're glue. What you say? Whatever you say bounces off you, me and sticks to you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I remember saying that as a kid. But my
Yeah.
grandmother always used to say, carry a buckeye.
Interesting.
She would say, keep a buckeye on you, and it'll ward off bad magic.
Wow.
Now I haven't
heard that. I was thinking,
had
I'm like,
one
I've
in a long
never heard
time.
that one.
But if I run across a buckeye, you can bet your hind end I'm going to hang on to it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Now I know. But like, when I'm trying to remember names, there's so many names throughout history, and it's crazy on how many stories you can come up with that all of these people were witches. I don't think everybody was witches, but they sure were, they sure died for it.
It was a convenient scapegoat when they wanted to get rid of somebody.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that was the scapegoat syndrome, but because a lot of these people that that were burned or tortured or whatever, nowadays they would just be like you said, kitchen witch or whatever. You just
go ahead. Take
yeah.
the Salem Witch Trials. Those accusations were started by a couple of teenage girls.
Right.
Right.
That's not exactly the greatest source to base a bunch of executions on, but they sure did it.
Yeah.
And I think at some point it just became a game to those two girls.
Right. And I agree with you.
Anybody that spoke against them, she's a witch.
I've raised a teenage daughter, and they're full of drama, and I'm sure they were back in the 1700s too. Everything is bigger than it really is. And those people were killed because of them.
Well, I was just in Salem in August, and
I've never been up there. I want to go.
Oh, you need to. It's just absolutely beautiful. But you see all the touristy trap type things, and of course they're going to have that, especially with all the hocus pocus and movie being made there and what have you. But there's a cemetery there, and it does have women in there that were supposed to have been witches, and they've got them right out there, just showing you their names, the dates, and people are leaving flowers for them, and all of this, and it's unbelievable how, like I was talking about earlier, the mass hysteria that started because of two teenage girls.
Well, one of the guys was crushed to death. They put a plank on him and just kept adding weight of stones until they crushed that guy to death. That's a horrible way to die.
Yeah, it really is. It's awful.
Well, and I can't remember what it was called, but the thing where they had the big I don't know if I can't remember if it was made out of bronze or the big bull that they would lock them in and light the fire under the belt, and then
there were a lot of brutal ways they came up with to execute people that were accused of heresy or witchcraft. Here, I've got a question for you, and this is kind of relevant to the Amazon driver killed. We know that down in Louisiana, they believe that the rougarou can be cursed upon a person by a practitioner of voodoo. What do you think the possibility that, I'm not saying all, because I think Dogman is a flesh and blood creature, but what do you think the chances that some of these dogmen could be magically created?
I believe that. I believe some of them are interdimensional, but that's,
I
my.
hear that a lot from people, and me being 20 years in law enforcement, I'm always going to be that physical evidence guy, but
Mhm.
I can't dismiss that outright because I'm hearing it too much.
Right.
Yeah, I
And
don't. I
then,
can't.
you
We can't
hear
say.
about people hearing, like metal sounds and stuff. So what is
Mhm.
that? And then they see a dogman come, So, I mean, is that like a portal that they come out of from another planet or another,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, we
But
know portals exist. CERN opened one.
mhm,
So we know for a fact portals are real. You can't
mhm.
say, you can't just be dismissive and go, oh, there's no such thing as portals. We know for a fact they exist and can be created with the application of enough energy, but we don't
Yeah.
know what other ways to open one there could be. I'm not going to be the guy that says Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever can't possibly come through portals, but there's a growing number of these sightings where people are talking about it materialized out of nowhere.
Mhm.
Some of the cases
Right.
where they say the tracks simply ended. Now, I think a lot of those cases, because I believe Bigfoot is smart enough to backtrack on its tracks. I've seen people do it, backtrack on their tracks. Robbie will tell you, if a person has got enough skill when it comes to witchcraft, they can backtrack on their tracks and then go up a tree or swing over to a rocky
Right.
area. And your only thing you're going to think is these tracks just went out in the middle of a field and vanished. But that may not be the case in every time. Uh,
Mhm. What's that TV show, like Expedition Bigfoot or something? And I had seen they had them on infrared, it had something on infrared, and then it just disappears. Where
yeah.
did it
How does
go?
how does that happen?
Right. So to me, that's where things like that lead me to believe that these things are interdimensional. Some of them, you know.
And I think because we've also heard stories where people have claimed that Dogman was created in a lab, but the sightings of Dogman go back way too long
Mhm.
for them to have been fully created.
Right.
The case of cynocephalus, the Greeks and Romans both in their journals recorded encountering and fighting tribes of dog-headed warriors in both Africa and India. So what we know as Dogman, or what you can trace back to be a Dogman, dates back way before we had the ability to genetically modify anything.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that they were all from here.
Mhm. Very true. Very true.
And I'm a firm believer that if something exists, our government's going to look for a way to weaponize it. So it's very possible they captured some and
Mhm.
tried to turn them into soldiers. Whether or not they were successful is anybody's guess.
Yeah.
Um, I-
I'm sure you heard, about Jessica Jones, remote viewing the LBL and stuff. And honestly, I mean, I feel like she's legit on what she said. And, she
Mhm,
said there is some government stuff there,
mhm.
you know? So I'm sorry I keep coughing. I'm over COVID, but I have that lingering COVID cough.
Mhm.
So
I totally understand.
yeah.
But when when we look at the examples of witchcraft back through the centuries, many of these cases may have just been somebody like Brandy was saying. It might have just been somebody with an extra sense, that somebody that
Right.
could sense things that people were like, oh, it's a witch. Didn't
Mhm.
she weigh as much as a duck and she was made of wood, so therefore she was a witch?
Yeah. And especially if maybe that person was odd or somebody maybe didn't like them,
Right.
that's just a good way to get rid of them.
Yeah, it's always been
Well,
somebody had
yeah.
an axe to grind, they start tossing out the word
Right.
witchcraft, and
Right.
you know, in
Or
the
they,
case of the Bell Witch,
yeah.
was that a case of true witchcraft? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
Because even today, people that go in the witch cave, if they take something from that cave, bad things happen to them. There are people
Yeah.
that have taken rocks from that cave and lost everything within a matter of days of leaving that cave. They say that they constantly receive stuff back in the mail, or people will bring it back to them and
Right.
say, "Look, I took this from the cave, and my life has been shit since this happened. Please put this back in the cave." So there's something to that, and it's far more than just some hedge witch that
I agree.
a land dispute with the
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bell. That's
Yeah.
There is something dark
Yeah.
there. There's a dark presence there.
Yeah. Well, Brandy and I talked about next year, we're going to go visit the Bell Witch.
I want to do
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah, we're going next year.
But you
It's
can
on our
bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be checking the bottom of my shoes when I leave that cave to make sure I don't even have
right.
a little sliver
Well,
of rock caught in the tread.
Well,
Like, don't
speaking
get out of
about speaking about the paranormal, though, even when I investigate anywhere, and I don't care where, I am not taking not one thing with me from that location, not one thing,
Nope.
because you don't know if something's going to follow you back home with that little tidbit that you brought with you. So, witch, no witch, paranormal, I don't care. I'm not taking anything. I don't want anything, hitchhiking back with me.
When I went to LBL, I had some odd experiences, and then of course Nick Valente and I had a sighting. We saw a Dogman, but when I got back, and I brought nothing back from LBL. I didn't pick up any souvenirs. The only thing I brought from LBL was I bought a T-shirt in the gift shop of the ranger station.
There you go. There you go.
I didn't bring anything out of the park. But for a couple of weeks after we got back, I would, because I'm a night owl, I stay up late at night and write. I would go to let my dog out about 2:00 in the morning, and there were nights when he would not leave the light on the porch light. He would do his business and race right back in, and I would feel like something was watching me from the back of my yard. And I've got a pretty big yard, but I do live in town. I've got a neighbor back there. But at that time, the house directly behind me, and my backyard's pretty big, but the house directly behind me had sat empty for months. The owner of it, the last tenant had wrecked it, and the owner was remodeling it, so it was completely empty. But I would get this weird feeling like something was watching me from the back of that property, because there's a big, thick bush that separates the property that's actually overgrown over the fence back there, and I would feel like something was watching me. And a couple of times I thought I saw eyes, like it was in the bushes. But the next day I went out there to look and see if it maybe a bird or something, or an owl had been perched on that. It's all just vines and honeysuckle, so it doesn't support weight. I could put my hand on it, push it all the way down to the fence, so there was no way something was sitting on it. An owl would have just crushed it down. So after a couple of weeks of this, I've got a buddy who's Navajo. He called me and he said, "Hey, had a dream about you." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He said, "I feel like there's something dark around you." And I explained to him what had been going on. He goes, "Yeah, I think something attached itself to you." And he showed me how to do a blessing way. And after that, it was gone. But every once in a while, I'll go out there and just have this weird feeling something's out there. And Robbie can tell you, I'm generally the from years of being a cop, I'm generally the guy that, if I think something's weird, I'm going to go poke it with a stick and find out what the hell it is. I didn't go out there. I didn't want anything to do with it. And even now, I go back out there to let the dog out once in a while. I feel like there's something back there in the darkness, and it's really.
You feel like it's spiritual, or do you feel like it's a spiritual realm?
I don't think it's physical. And was it one of you guys that posted the question in the Dogman group? Had anybody smelled cigarette smoke in their house before? Somebody posted the question.
No, but I talked to Bettina, and she had talked about a lot of people when they have Dogman encounters, they're smoking, so the tobacco, draws them in or something. I don't know.
We've lived here in this house for 10 years. None of us are smokers, but just sometime at night, once in a while, you'll just smell it. You'll smell cigarette smoke like somebody just blew it in your face.
So like a ghost or something.
Yeah, there's something. And I can go through our kitchen and all the kitchen cabinets be closed, because we got 2 bathrooms. We've got one at the back of the house and one at the front. I will walk through the kitchen to go to the back bathroom because somebody in the one in the front part of the house, and all the cabinets will close, and I'll come back and half of them will be open.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And I've never seen anything in this house. However, my oldest son, he when he was sick and sleeping on the couch, back when he lived with us, he lives up in St. Louis now, but he said that one night when he was sleeping on the couch when he was really sick, said he woke up and looked down the hallway, and it looked like something, like a shadow figure was crawling toward him down the hallway. I've never seen anything like that in this house.
Yeah.
But my youngest son and my wife have both felt things. But I'm oblivious.
Yeah, that's interesting. You know what you should do? You should put a recorder and just let it run all night. Not talk into it. Yeah, just do an EVP and just let it run. Not
I-
talk, not ask questions.
Okay. I may do that. I've got my digital recorder in my bag.
Well,
I might just do that.
you don't really want to open up a can of worms at home. I'm just
No.
saying.
I
No,
really
but that's
really
why I
don't
said
want to do that.
if there's
Right.
something here, it's because if there's something here, it's never been malicious. However, if there's something here and it's just kind of starting to pick up, I want
You
to
don't
go.
want to give it the energy.
I
Don't.
want
Yeah,
to
you
go
don't.
and
and that's what I said. Don't ask questions. Don't interact with it. Just
Right.
run a recorder and walk away from it.
Derek Buckles had a good question, and I think this is better for the two of you than it is for me. He says, "Are there any natural elements one can carry to keep entities at bay, stones, etc.?"
Yes, absolutely. Black tourmaline is a good stone, and then also iron. So when I personally do private cases and do cleansings and things like that, I take like horseshoe nails. You can buy a box of them at your local feed store for $10-12 and take a horseshoe nail and put around the property or windows or something. That's what I use.
I'll use tourmaline too. That's if I'm a little hesitant about the situation I'm walking into, because it is a little bit of a stronger stone. Black obsidian is another one that I'll use. But if it's just a lighter fare and I just don't want hitchhikers, I'll go with like an amethyst. That's just calming, and it just kind of repels, but everything's okay. It's not super bad.
Like I
Rose
said,
quartz.
Yep.
Rose quartz is another one I'd use.
Yeah, rose quartz also, though, it opens up abilities. So if somebody has any type of abilities, it helps to enhance that. So I personally
Show the
would
love
use,
is what it does.
right, would either use the black tourmaline or just get some horseshoe nails and carry around or put around your property or even in your windows.
Oh yeah.
I think that's probably why those horseshoe nail crosses are so popular.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yep.
people make those.
Yeah. Yep. I think they're kind of cool, honestly.
Just to keep that negative energy away from you.
Yeah. Yep. Anything iron, when we do private cases, if people say they're having, dreams or something, and can't sleep, I tell them, take a cast iron skillet and throw under your bed,
Right. But I mean, to find out if something is in your home, I mean, the smoke smell, now that totally could be a residual thing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be just a loop that just keeps replaying from the past.
Smoke in this house is fairly common. And I never really put much thought about it until Lene posted that question. I just thought maybe someone who lived here before us smoked, and every once in a while we'd get a whiff of it coming out of the
right,
the woodwork, so to speak. But after 10 years, you'd think it'd be gone, and we don't smell it all the time. And the house has got hardwood floors, so it's not like it's trapped in the carpeting.
right. It could be residual of something too,
That's what I said. It's probably a residual. Something caught in a loop somewhere that just keeps replaying, and that's why you keep smelling it.
Yep.
And I'm generally, like I said, I'm generally the most oblivious in the world when it comes to hauntings. But I have had some really bizarre paranormal experiences in the old hospital I used to work at.
Yeah.
I saw a full body apparition one night, and I'm generally not the guy to see stuff like that. It was in the chapel. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in the paranormal. I just generally don't notice it.
Yeah. I got to ask you, Robbie, real quick. I listened in on Sunday on your guys' Saturday night show. Did your day get any better with like the weirdness that went on?
It was just that one alarm call that was weird. I mean, still had call after call after call that day, but that one call with the 666 at the end of it was
yeah.
like that's a good way to start the morning.
Right. That was pretty brave of you to go in there.
Hey, somebody's got to do it.
I'm going to step away for just a minute. Can y'all kind of run things for? I normally don't have to step away, but this one's kind of an emergency. So
gotcha.
I will be right
It
back.
happens to the best of us.
We gotcha.
I think that just means we're getting old.
Yeah. So Sunday on my way home from Scarefest, I listened to the show from you guys on Saturday night, and then also Bettina. So you guys all kept me entertained on my way home. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, we try. But yeah, that's I like this. I don't know that it's I'm oblivious or I've never had one of those. I've got plenty of friends in law enforcement who've had their share of I've told the story on one of the shows. I don't know if you've heard it, but the story about a buddy of mine that went to the funeral home. The little girl was crying and hysterical. Said this guy came walking in, and I tried to stop him. Tried to ask him and he just kept on walking. And she described what the guy looked like, and it was raining outside, and they could clearly see wet footprints walking back towards the area where they prepare the bodies and everything. And my buddy's looking at his partner like, means we got to go back here and look for this guy. Long story short, they go through the whole entire mortuary. They get back to the last room they have to go to, which is the room where they had to prepare the body. They walked in, and I've heard him tell this story 15 or 20 times, and it's never changed one single bit. So he's either really got this story down or it really happened.
Right. Gotcha.
He opens the door, and they go in there, and the guy she described is laying on the table to be prepared, wearing exactly what the girl said.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And like I said, I've heard him tell that story 15, 20 times, and it's never changed one bit.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He said they looked at each other and said, let's go. And they got the little girl, and she was like, did you find him? Nope, he must have got out the back door. Let's go. We're lock it up. Let's go. Let's get out of here.
Right, right.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
So, Robbie, you've never had a paranormal experience at all?
No, never have. I you know.
You didn't. You must, Brandy, you must not have watched from Saturday's show because he did have a paranormal experience.
That was a freaking mannequin standing there. That wasn't paranormal. That was.
I don't know. It's kind of weird.
That's just a mannequin standing there trying to scare the crap out of it.
That's what I'm like, wait a minute. Did I miss something? Because, wait.
I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Well,
maybe it's because I was up all night with the after party and I was half tired.
I got an alarm call at a mortuary. Here we go again with a mortuary.
Oh, here we go the story.
So my dispatcher decides she needs to give me this information. It's what I say, DA, 5:30 in the morning, something like that, 6 o'clock somewhere around. And so I'm on my way to it, and I get a text message. I look down. It says, "Oh, by the way, I just thought you might want to know the case number ends in 666." I'm like, "Oh, great, thanks, Beck. I didn't need to know that." She goes, "Well, I'm pretty sure the 05 in front of it cancels it out." I'm like, "I'm pretty sure I don't care. It's still got 666 at the end of it."
Right.
So I get there. I hear the alarm going off. I'm like, great. I'm going to have to go in here. So go up to the two front doors, check both of them. They're locked. I'm like, whew, cool. No, only two more doors on the side. And I know this one over here is locked because it only opens from the inside. It doesn't even open from the outside. So we're good on that one. So I go check this other one. It's closed. I said, all right, well, I'm going to go around the back and check it out too. Bunch of big glass windows all the way down the back. They're about that wide, as tall as the building. Well, I see one that's broken. I'm like, oh, great. Well, I get up and notice it's been broken for a while, but they got these big white plastic sheets in front of the window so you can't see into it. As you get on further down the building, they don't have those. So as I step around, I see the window looks like it's broke, and it's just a little small hole down to about the size of a baseball. And as I'm looking at that and paying attention, it's one of the open windows. I'm like, oh, cool, that's been there for a while too. And I step up and look, and it's one of the offices. And the guy, it was a mannequin or something. I don't know if it was one that they have for trying on suits or whatever. But as I look up and shine my light, that thing standing there, there was about a few more holes in that window when I did that, because I about to put a few more holes in it.
Well, thank you guys for covering for me. That was a full-on code yellow emergency.
We got you.
Gotcha.
We ordered Thai food tonight, and I like to get it really hot. I like it spicy, and I drank probably the better part of a gallon of water with it, and I was sweating. That stuff was so hot, and that's all the water I drank coming back to haunt me.
Oh no.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, Robbie, what I was going to say is about the 666. I don't care. I'm superstitious. And even when I'm at, say, the convenience store and I go in to grab something and it comes out to be $6.66, I'm like, here, I'm buying something else that we're not doing that.
Yeah, I'm the
But-
exact same way. If I'm
But
getting gas,
superstition,
I'll pull a farva and pull the nozzle out and throw it in the trash can if I have to make sure I don't
Couple
hit
extra
that
cents.
number. Yeah,
Just
Right.
south of Springfield on I-44 is mile marker 66.6. And as I'm getting close, I make sure I just like look away from that side of the road so I don't see it.
Don't look at it. Don't look.
yeah, but I mean, if you think about it, though, superstition, it plays a big part in witchcraft. I mean, it really does. I mean, let's talk about black cats.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's all in superstition, that you don't let a black cat cross your path.
Yeah.
But all witches have black cats. What is going on with that? I know a little bit, but it just seems like they just go hand in hand. And and superstition is a big thing for me. It's kind of like I said, don't let a black cat cross your path. Well, I never do. I will turn around and go the other way before
I'm
I
the
could,
same way.
I'm out there.
I will backtrack around my entire neighborhood to get to my house.
and what's funny
Right.
about superstitions is you've got superstitions like you're talking about the black cat, and don't walk under a ladder, don't break a mirror, and all this kind of stuff. But
There you go.
think about how ingrained superstitions are. I mean, DA knows I'm a big
those old
Clemson.
wives' tales.
Yeah. I'm a big Clemson fan, and I always wash it, but I wear the exact same shirt, hoodie, and ball cap for every Clemson game. But how
Does it
different? Where does all that come from, and how does that tie in to superstitions with black cats not cross your path? But yet, as a sports fan, you've got to wear the exact and wear it in the exact same order, and you got to wake up and do the exact same thing on Facebook I make the exact same post every single morning. It's game day in the Valley, beat whoever, and then put the hashtag. Why?
I think we need to do a study. We need a study to figure out why people who are fans of sports do that.
Yeah,
We need a study.
Superstition runs strong.
And I was an athlete in school, and I did the same thing. I put my cleats on a certain way. I taped my ankles up a certain way. I put my braces that I wore on a certain way. My uniform I always wore a certain way. I mean, and you had to do that at the exact same time. And then something happened and you lost. You're like, oh crap! See, we lost because I didn't have my brace on the right way.
Yeah, you didn't do exactly what you did before.
I was always told as a kid to never never close a pocket knife someone else had opened.
Yeah, because it'll cut the friendship.
Right. And so even to this day, I don't know why. If I open a pocket knife, I won't let my wife close it, or she opens it and tries to hand it back to me. I'm like, oh, you close it before you give it back to me. That's just one of those weird superstitions. I don't know if that's an Ozarks thing or if people all over the place do that, but there's a lot of superstitions, and those
it's up here in the Appalachians too.
Right. Yeah, those tie in to these old wives' tales, these old hedge witch sayings, and they exist for a reason. Sometimes we don't understand what that reason is. It might go back so many generations we forgot what the original one's for. But these were like fables, like morality stories telling you things you should and shouldn't do. And
it's like the old fairy tales. You know, the fairy tales that we hear are all nice and roses and friendly and kind of, but really those
original ones were Grimm's fairy tales were bad.
Yeah, they were a lot darker.
They weren't the Disney versions.
Reality. Exactly. So maybe a lot of these little fun superstitious things that we do, like things that I was talking about that I do, or the pocket knife thing, they've got a lot darker and more sinister meaning than what we've that we just don't know anymore, don't remember.
Even like what on that same lines, like even the kids when you were a kid, the little riddle, ring around the rosy, isn't that supposed to be pretty dark too?
I haven't heard the whole thing, but I'm sure.
Yeah, that was originally dated back to the Black Plague. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posies.
Right.
The posies was to cover the smell.
Right. So it's all kind of, yeah.
When the maypole, that's an old Celtic tradition.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's crazy.
It's amazing how many things that we still experience today have their roots in folklore and witchcraft. I mean, the old
Right.
wives' tales are just one easy example. How about throwing salt over your shoulder when you spill the salt?
Right.
Yeah, I do it.
I've done
I
that
do
a
it.
million times. If I spill salt, I always throw some over my shoulder.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm not even sure what
Sometimes
the origin of that is.
Sometimes I just do stuff like that. I don't even know why. I'm like, I don't know what this means, but we're going to do it anyway. I don't want any bad luck.
Yeah.
So you let's do what, what anybody has said or what you've heard growing up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But-
that's true.
So it was like, it's a tradition in my family that when you get married, you place a coin in the bottom of your shoe face up, and then as you walk into marriage, you will have a prosperous and successful marriage.
My
So-
wife did that on her wedding day. She put a coin in her shoe.
Yeah, you put a coin in your shoe.
Mhm.
Yep.
And think about the New Year's Eve tradition, or New Year's Day traditions rather. You eat macaroni to get gold. You eat collard greens to get money. You eat black-eyed peas to get coins.
I hate
That's-
black-eyed peas. Those things are so nasty.
I agree.
well, I hate
100%
collard greens.
agree.
Annette and I did that one year on New Year's Day. I got a can of black-eyed peas. I warmed them up, and we both were going to take a spoonful at the same time. And we were looking at each other because neither of us had ever eaten them. And I put some in my mouth, and she did, and we were both like, bleh! And about the same time, spit it right in the air, like, I'm not eating that. That's disgusting.
That's because you ate them out of a can.
Well,
Ew. Ew.
Have you guys
I
ever
don't
tried
eat 'em
boiled
either.
peanuts?
Yes.
love more peanuts.
Yes. Love them.
I've never tried that. To me, it just seems wrong.
More peanuts.
Or
If you
putting
get 'em
peanuts
done
in your
right-
Coke.
Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm
Who thought that was a good idea?
Somebody.
Right.
2 and 4.
I'm a picky eater, so all this stuff you're talking about sounds nasty to me.
But some of these things like the coin in the shoe.
Mm-hmm.
These are old superstitions that still hold true in the modern day, and I don't think any one of those could be considered Christian traditions. These date back to some hedge witch somewhere, or to a practitioner of some sort of magic.
Yeah.
I think the more we look at some of our modern traditions, the more we'll find a lot of these have origins that date back to either the Celts or to Native American tradition and things like that. Like, for example, I think we've all seen the series Supernatural, how they would pour salt around the openings of the house to keep things out. But that, no, I'm not saying grab a 5-gallon bag of it and put an inch layer thick across your windowsills, but salt represents purity.
Yeah.
A lot of people will put salt around their windowsills, just shake salt to keep things at bay.
They use
My
that a lot
grandmother
in
said it would
that
also keep ants out of your house.
They use salt a lot in that Teen Wolf series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That
Well,
was
silver was also used for its purity.
we talked about that in our werewolf show. That's where we think a lot of the myth about silver killing a werewolf came from, because of how pure the silver is, and the 13 coins, I think, that Judas
Was also
Iscariot
the 13, the darkened denarii. But
Yeah.
that's also why they said the vampires didn't cast reflections, because early mirrors were made with silver on the back of the
polished
glass.
silver. Yep.
Polished silver. They weren't made like modern mirrors today, where it's aluminum foil or something along those lines. Or old mirrors are chased with silver.
Mm-hmm. Well, just like you're talking about old superstitions and stuff. Like you break a mirror, you have bad luck for 7 years, or walk under a ladder, that's bad.
Or if someone in your house dies, cover the mirrors.
Right. Or I've also heard my grandma used to say you never want like an outside bird fly in your house, because that means there's a death coming.
Mm-hmm. Or if a bird smacks into your window.
Yeah. Yep. So there's,
Mhm.
I don't know.
There's a lot of these traditions. They're things that we just take for granted in the modern age. Date back to witchcraft and
Hmm.
hedge wizardry, and
Yeah.
throughout the centuries, and some of them even, like I was saying, from Santeria or Voodoo. Uh,
Hmm.
these 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 have all deeply affected our culture, even now to the modern times.
Yeah.
And Steve Madden says rock salt will still purify someone's. Cuts it off. Will purify someone's. Yeah, my grandfather used to load his own shotgun shells, and he would load them with rock salt and bacon fat.
Yeah. He said it will purify someone's backside as well. That's what he
Yeah.
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that in a shotgun shell, that'll certainly get somebody out of there.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy things that, people still practice today
Hmm.
in
And
today's world.
not all of it, is I can't say all of it traces back, but these old wives' tales exist for a reason.
Hmm.
Um,
Absolutely.
Well, you see more and more often. You're seeing, like, I can't tell you how many times I've saw it this month, but these ladies are going out and dressing up as witches and having a witches' night out. They
Hmm.
mhm.
actually are having parties and celebrating witches
Right.
today, which is really crazy. I mean, considering, if you just read some history, any history on witches, you're like, oh, I wouldn't even want to dress like one, but they're out there celebrating it, and it looks like fun. So I think that with today's society, we're I don't know. I think we're embracing it more.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we're embracing it. I mean, because what a pharmacist today would have been, you know, yeah, a witch or something back in the day because they were putting things together to give to somebody else. So,
hmm
like I said, it's just come a long way since then. And like I
yeah.
said, there's so much history. There's so much history. I always get the names mixed up, and I hate that. It's a blonde thing.
Well, for
It's a
simple,
blonde thing.
this is an
Um,
example I've used a lot of times. Uh, Foxglove tea. People, hedge witches and Native Americans would prescribe foxglove tea if you
yes.
had anything, like heart palpitations or something like that. And modern science has discovered that the foxglove plant gives us digitalis, which is used to treat heart
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
How many of these even modern remedies come from things like that?
Brandy and I have there's a guy on our team, and that's what he's about. That's what he does, is all natural, all, who I'm talking
Homeopathic.
about, Brandy. Yeah. And actually he was at Fallen Supernatural. You met him, DA.
Mike, Mike and
Hi.
Mike and I talked for quite a bit.
Yeah.
In fact, I've got a bottle of rosemary oil.
I do too. He gave me a bottle of rosemary from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Him and I
Yep.
talked, and
Yeah.
I think he should have gave me some. Jeez, I forget everything.
Well, do you sniff yours? Because I do, like,
every
4
day.
times a day. I do
Yeah.
too.
Every time I remember it, and
Yeah.
it was just bad for me. But it's subtle. I didn't notice hardly anything at first. Like first week, I'm like, I don't know if this is working. But then, like 2 weeks in, I'm like, huh,
Yeah.
maybe there's a little more to this than
Yeah.
I thought. And now, a month later, I'm like, I kind of
Yeah,
like that.
I would agree with you on that. And I never would have thought sniffing out of a little bottle of
Yeah.
rosemary, But yeah, for sure. Yeah. I was reading some of your comments on here. I've got them on
Yeah,
my
I'm
phone.
trying to catch up here. They're coming in pretty fast for me.
I'm trying to, but they've shifted over on my screen, so I'm only seeing part of them.
See, it won't let me see it
Yes.
on my screen, so I had to put it on my
I
phone.
can see if I can put them up here.
Yeah, somebody
It's doing
says
it on mine too, DA. I don't know why it shifted like that, but
I have no idea.
just there and there 66 says use black pepper daily to thin your blood. I didn't know
Mhm.
that. I've never heard
I
that
cook
before.
with a lot of pepper.
Oh, I use
And
black
garlic.
pepper every day.
Yeah. So
I cook with a pepper grinder, and of course I get at Sam's. I get the great big canister of restaurant ground pepper. Excuse me, restaurant style ground black pepper.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I cook with that a lot, and I've started adding rosemary to my food too.
Mm-hmm. Whatever we can get to help our memory.
I'm telling you, so he let you in on a secret I didn't know. So now I know. I'll
Mine's
have to go
awesome.
get some.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
Goodness.
John
Oh,
Doe says the optimal ghoul buster is a water cannon filled with blessed fluid tank. Yeah, like a super soaker full of holy water. There you go.
Yeah.
Little Patty said, my grandma always said never. I can't scroll on that.
I can't either.
There we go. So my grandma always said never place a mirror or on an outside wall. It's a portal for spirits.
Yeah. I've heard that too. Yeah. It's just funny how a lot of the old sayings, still apply true today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. I don't know why I can't read comments on here. I have to go to my phone and read it.
Yeah,
I did too.
Tonight.
Yeah, I can't read it on the thing. So, you were, witchcraft, Satanism is a form of witchcraft,
Yeah, I try to shy away from anybody that gets into the darker stuff.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We've had a few pop up in chat, and we've had I've had a few like approach me in my personal life, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really want anything to do
Right.
with that kind of
Exactly.
stuff.
I noticed on the Blondes and Booze page there is a couple on there, and as long as they stay cool and they don't do anything bad, I'm not
Right.
going to do them, and I'll leave them on there. And so far, they've been good. So
Well,
That's always
we had
plus.
we had to ban one the other night.
Mhm. Yeah,
a Satanist.
yeah,
What
they
was
were
that?
spouting some crazy stuff.
Gotcha.
We assumed he was because of what his screen name was and the things he was saying, but
Yeah. Who knows? He could have been casting spells. Who knows?
Yeah.
That stuff's
Exactly.
pretty scary. There's a place in St. Charles, Missouri that when I was a kid, it was an old water plant, and it turned into where like a bunch of devil worshippers went to, and a lot of satanic things went on there. Like killing of goats and cats and stuff like that. Scary stuff.
Yeah, I think every little small town's got a legend,
Mhm.
something like that. There was one out near Lebanon where I grew up. There's a
Mhm.
place they refer to it as the Foundation of Doom because all you can find is the foundation of where this house used to be. But the local legend was that there were people that lived there back before Lebanon was actually an incorporated town, and they would let travelers spend the night with them,
Mhm.
like an inn. And then
Right.
they murder them in their sleep and take all their stuff and bury the bodies beneath the house.
Wow.
It's still a pretty creepy place to go, but
Yeah.
it's on private property now, so it's tough to get to. But you can drive right past it; it's still there.
Yeah. I don't know. There's some pretty scary stuff out there, And you hear a lot about Satanism and especially around this time of the year.
Mhm.
oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe that's more along the lines of the occult than witchcraft because they are two different things. So
They do say that the this time of year the veil gets thinner.
mhm.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this really ties into witchcraft, and it might actually tie into the Amazon thing, but it doesn't seem to you like these encounters with cryptids or with things they're not sure what they are seem to be on the rise.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's that they're on the rise, honestly, because I'm new to the cryptids, so I'm just started in this, the last couple of years. But I hear about things all the time, so I really can't say, it was like that 5 or 10 years ago because I really wasn't into it.
it's things like that are definitely on the rise.
And I don't know if it's
It has to be. I mean, I grew up in Michigan, and I spent a lot of my time outdoors because, well, I lived in Flint, so that should tell you why I tried to get somewhere else outdoors.
Right.
And you know, you would hear people talking about it, this, that, and the other, and there's no big deal. But it seems like now that it is like it's just happening, and you hear so much more stories and more pictures, and it just I don't know. I'm thinking that there's a rise in sightings for a reason.
Mhm.
And I'd like to know what it is because I'm not sure what it is yet. I think we're gonna find out.
Well,
Sorry about that. My
Yeah.
laptop froze up there for a second.
Gotcha.
It does that once in a while.
you need to change
Surprised
your
it
name,
hasn't-
DA.
Oh,
You still remember you got to change it when you come back in. So,
yeah. Give me just a second. I'll get that fixed.
Mhm.
But we kind of talked about that on our Mandela Effect show.
Mhm.
That we kind of, I guess, as a general consensus, felt like ever since that thing happened in CERN, that all this stuff has been on the rise. All these sightings, all the
Mhm.
stuff like that has just been, I don't think it's a coincidence. Neither
Mm-mm.
did the
I
rest of
agree
them.
with you.
It's just too many things have, because I had my sighting back in '81, and back then, people were like, "Oh, you're crazy." Telling a kid that, "Oh, you're crazy. You're stupid." Don't and that's why I didn't talk about it for years. Now it's just like, "Oh, really? Tell me about it."
Right. Right.
It's almost like it's. I think we talked about it earlier. It's more accepted now, or people are, more.
Mhm.
Right.
So,
No, I
why
agree.
is that?
Do you think it has anything to do with the Book of Revelations and the Bible?
Well,
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that seem to think we're in the end of times.
Yep.
I 100% think that.
Yep. I would agree.
I've read the Book of Revelations probably 20 or 30 times, and
Right.
when it talks about things that are wrong will be considered right.
Mhm.
Well, tell me that ain't happening right now.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
I mean, there you can really go through with a checklist in Revelations and do this.
And that's pretty scary, if you really
Yeah.
think about it. It really is.
I was
Yeah.
reading an article just the other day that said that the Mississippi River is so far down that down near New Orleans, they found a shipwreck, 100-year-old shipwreck that the ship was lost in a storm and they didn't know where it was. And it was 100 yards from where the dock used to be
Wow.
and just emerged from the mud.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That would be kind of weird,
Mhm. For
And
sure.
you said it was like it was 100 years ago. Did you say that?
Something like that. Yeah, it was sometime in the 1800s. There's an old wooden ship.
Wow. That is strange. I did see that they're finding all kinds of cars and other types of vehicles in the Mississippi that are just coming right up because that water's going away.
Right.
Makes you wonder where it's going. I mean, we haven't been having any record heat waves or anything like that.
I can tell you we haven't had any rain. We had one day of rain, and I can't tell you how long. I know
The
that
past couple of
it's
days,
been
it's rained
dry.
fairly solid here. The ground's really wet.
We have nothing here. But I'm not sure about anywhere else. But the rivers and the creeks and stuff are drying up here pretty bad.
Mhm.
Be a good
We got
time
rain
to go out
yesterday.
metal
We needed
detecting.
it. Mhm.
We got a little bit of rain yesterday. That's all we got. But I'm
Yeah.
thankful for it.
It didn't rain today, but yesterday and the day before it rained pretty solid around here.
Yeah, it was a steady rain here all day, and I'm up around St. Louis area, outside of St. Louis. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
But
My back's going ow, 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 ow.
Well, we are coming up on the 2-hour mark, so we can start winding down. I know
Yeah, I
you've got
sat still for
your
2
rib
hours.
injuries.
That's a miracle.
And you got to do it again tomorrow.
I know. But it's not too bad. I got me a good setup. I got pillows here, I got my blanket. I am in a rocking chair, so that helps me get up out of the chair.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to throw you under the bus, Brandy. Why don't you tell everybody how you got hurt? It's kind of funny.
She made it through the whole show without having to give that up. And then dinner at the end of the show, Krista.
I thought, I better wash my dogs. I said it's going to be one of the warmest last days we're going to have this year. I better wash them, make them feel good, all that kind of good stuff. Well, they're wiener dogs, so we know they don't listen at all, ever. Anyway, so I washed the first dog. He seemed to like it. He's got his scrubs and everything, and he was pretty good. So I pulled him out. My daughter took him into the living room. Then I got my fat boy, and I call him Fat Boy because he reminds me of like a little sausage, because he's just looks like a sausage. And he gets in there. Well, he decides that he doesn't like the water, so he's trying to run away from the water. Now, this is in a garden tub, which they're very deep, and it's hard because you have to get up on the step to lean over into the tub. Well, he started running away. I went to grab him. I leaned over the tub, and the next thing you know, I heard a snap. I felt it, and then I couldn't breathe for like 10 seconds. So I'm like, great. I thought I was going to die laying right there. I thought my dog was going to drown. I didn't know if anybody was ever going to find me or think to come look for me. So I went to the doctor's the next day, and she says, well, let's take some x-rays. She says, if your rib is just out of place, she goes, we can get you to the chiropractor and have him put it into place. She goes, and that'll be great. I said, okay. Well, then she calls and she says, well, not only is it out of place, it's fractured. She goes, keep in touch with me. I'll see you in 6 weeks. I said, great.
Who fractures their rib washing a wiener dog?
Yeah.
Really?
You put your rib out of place and fracture it washing a wiener dog. That's me.
I've never fractured a rib, but I have. I did get a black eye one time trying to wash a 170-pound English Mastiff that was determined to get out of the tub.
This was a wiener dog.
His paw up and bopped me right in the eye.
Yeah, this is not. This is a wiener dog. Not only is it a wiener dog, it's a miniature. So yeah, that's me. I did it. So that's my story. And here I am for 6 weeks, but it's not going to slow me down. I still go to work and actually do better at work because standing is a whole lot easier than sitting. Mm-hmm. So work is fine. Work is fine. Just coming home and trying to lay down and sleep or cough or anything, really. You can't do. Taking a deep breath is not good.
I've broken a couple of ribs and fractured a few others in my misspent youth.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, I never thought I'd break a rib washing my dog. I really didn't.
Washing your wiener dog.
Right.
Washing my wiener.
Randy, I will say this. You told the story a lot better on the air than you told it off the air.
Well, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed, but since she called me out, I might as well just
throw her under the bus.
Just own it.
Yeah, she called me out. I tried to downplay it while I was talking with y'all.
If she wasn't thinking about it, you would have heard how she told the story off air when we first started. I was about to roll.
I had to put everything in it, Yeah, well, I had to tell the whole story since she threw me under the bus. With you guys, I was trying to downplay it so, it wouldn't sound like a big deal.
Yep.
Well, folks, we are right at the 2-hour mark. So I think we'll start wrapping things up. Krista, Brandy, thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Anytime. You guys are always welcome.
Yeah, we think the world of you guys. You guys rock. You really
do.
We just have a good time.
Yeah.
Because we're just as weird as it's that same level of weirdness. Right? Same level of weirdness.
We are.
Well, hope
we're
Anthony
we are
gets
the weirdo.
Better. Well, I enjoyed hanging out with you guys up in Lexington. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll
We
we'll
need to
definitely
do
be
that
doing that
again.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then, tomorrow night everybody can hang out with all of us again.
Heck
Plus,
yeah.
because Aaron will be on, and then hopefully Anthony will feel better and he'll be on, and then I think Bettina's going to join us
Oh,
tomorrow
awesome.
night.
Bettina's awesome. She's a lot of fun to have on too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be pretty good for her because this is strictly paranormal.
Heck
So
For sure.
Well, folks, we set out our goal was to talk about witches and witchcraft, and I think we covered that pretty well. We talked about the origins of different types of witchcraft. We didn't necessarily talk about the history of witchcraft, but we kind of touched on all bases when it comes to different origins of witchcraft, especially in the Western world. But it also touched on one of the things I find the best about that is things that we all do in our everyday life that trace back to some of these origins. And I agree with Krista and Brandy. I think that a lot of the cases of these women that were persecuted were women that were just gifted. Maybe they had the sight, maybe they were, understood homeopathic remedies, but somebody somewhere got their panties in a wad and went full Karen and wanted to talk to the manager and started throwing the word witchcraft around, and people get burned at the stake.
right.
It's a sad element to our history, but it has happened, and that's the thing about history. History is not there for us to pick and choose. History is there to teach us the lessons of the past. And if Krista and Brandy can show us anything about the modern world, it's that we're more embracing their gifts. 100 years ago, it might have been a whole different animal. 50 years ago, it might have been a whole different animal.
Right.
But we're understanding that these, just because they can sense things we can't, doesn't mean we can burn them at the stake. I mean, it's kind of nuts that ever happened, but it did. And I'm really amazed at the gifts that these ladies have. And Erin, I wish Erin had been here because she is one gifted lady. And Jessica Jones, she has got a fantastic gift. And I've really had my eyes open to a lot of this stuff. And the farther I get into this field, the more I'm learning. And this is something much like the paranormal, much like cryptids, anything UFOs, any of this that we're looking into. Don't let anybody claim to be an expert and tell you don't know anything, because we're all studying, we're all learning on this journey together, and it's sharing our experiences and sharing our knowledge is how we're going to continue to grow in this field, not by people that are closed-minded and say it's this way or no way. And even using myself as an example, I was a dyed-in-the-wool physical evidence guy. If it didn't cast a footprint or leave behind DNA, I didn't look at any other options. So I'm, if I can look at some of these things and go, that's a possibility. That means anybody can learn.
Exactly. I was going to actually say something about that, with you, your past history as a police officer and Robbie being a police officer. My brother is a police officer and he is very close-minded into all of this, so I just appreciate the fact that you guys are open-minded to, the cryptids and ghosts and metaphysics and, things like that, because, just being around my brother a lot, he's not, he thinks all this stuff's crazy, like you said, you have to see it, it's evidence,
Right.
My brother's very high up in one of our branches of military, and he's the same way. He's really closed-minded, which is funny because my stepdad, his dad, is probably one of my biggest supporters about seeing the cryptid. It's hilarious to see my brother's eyes and my dad be like, "No, it's true." So it's and like DA said, I still am more the physical evidence type guy. And I'm not saying that I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'm just saying I like to go to the physical evidence thing. It's like
that's where I'll always start.
Yeah, and it's just, but it's the nature of the 25 years or 26 years now that I've been doing this, and the 20 years that DA did it. That's just it. That's so ingrained in us. It's just that's where we're going to naturally go and gravitate to. But that being said, even once I go to that and it leads me to the next step, then I'm gonna follow that next step, and wherever it leads. And that's the whole thing that we've talked about is what does the evidence show? And let's talk about the cryptids part of it, because that's what got us all, or DA and I, into it. Is if you look at all the evidence, there's something there. Well, the same can be said with the paranormal. Way too many people see this stuff and talk about it to sit there and say, "Nah, that don't exist." That's just
The
you
problem
can't be
is
that way.
there are too many people that want to make the evidence fit their theory, not their theory fit the evidence. And I think if we can get past that wanting to make everything pigeonhole the way we think it should, and explore the possibility that it might be something beyond our control, I think we're going to start learning more about not just the paranormal field, but about cryptids and even beyond.
Right.
And we've got to approach these with an open mind and a willingness to share our experiences. One of the things I look for, be it cryptid accounts, Dogman, Bigfoot, whatever, I look for commonalities in the stories, and that's how we start determining behaviors. And if you can build a profile based on behaviors, we're going to start being able to track these things. And eventually, there's going to be way too much evidence for them to just completely ignore it. And that's probably the point where we're going to start getting visits from people telling us to back off. But I'm retired now. I'm not a cop anymore. I don't need to worry about getting on the the witness stand and having some defense attorney say, well, he believes in cryptids, so his testimony is useless. I don't have to worry about that crap anymore. So I'm going to say what's on my mind, and I'm going to pursue this, and I'm going to try to learn. And I've learned a lot from Krista and Brandy and Aaron. I'm learning, even Robbie, who hasn't been digging into this field as long as some of us, but I'm learning stuff from Robbie because he's finding some really good evidence out in his research area.
Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of Robbie, I listened to your on Spotify, and anybody that hasn't, they're missing out, because I think your shows are really good. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yep.
I enjoy his shows too. Those are always good.
They are.
But again, thank you guys for coming on. I had a great time. I know we're going to do it again tomorrow night. It's always a hoot having you guys on. Hopefully Anthony be feeling better by tomorrow night. Doc couldn't join us because he's in Florida teaching classes, and he had to be up at 0:30 to travel to teach a class. Oh, we lost Brandy.
Brandy.
Again, guys, make sure you go over to Blondes and Booze on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe. Just go to YouTube and search Blondes and Booze. That's BOOS, not BOOZE.
Or BOOBS.
That's true. That's what I thought. The first time you guys we talked, that's what I thought it was. My wife's like, "What the hell kind of show are you guys going on?"
Well, I got to tell you something. So this weekend we went to Scarefest, right? Aaron and I did. We were asked to speak there, and I don't know anybody that's out there that's ghost hunters. We went to the after party, and all the TV stars and the movie stars were all there, and Steve Gonzalez and Dave Tango from Ghost Hunters were Blondes and Boobs. They, everybody was kind of drinking, and they were kind of giving us a hard time, but they ended up actually, being really cool, and we had to explain to them what it was, and then Dave Schrader, which was who I got to give a shout out to anybody that's into the paranormal. He did a shout out for Blondes and Boobs, and awesome. He's following our page now, so nice. I thought that was really cool, and we talked to him about doing a show with us, so he's all about it. So just
that'd be cool.
Everybody.
I'll definitely be watching that.
Yeah. So anyway, we made a lot of new friends. So
hey, that's what this is all about.
Yep.
Networking and exchanging ideas and learning from each other.
Absolutely.
And that's something I hope to continue to do, not only with this show, but with my own research. And we're going to continue to learn, because if you're not learning, you're pigeonholing yourself in, and you're going to miss a lot.
Yep.
In this field, be it paranormal, cryptid, UFO, whatever you're into, you've got to be constantly learning and challenging yourself to learn and follow the evidence.
Absolutely.
And that's how we're going to bring this home.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert Miller just jumped in. What's up, Sentinel? Hey, brother. You jumped in right at the end, man. We're just shutting her down for the night. But again, thanks to Blondes and Booze. Make sure you go over to the
Thank
YouTube
you.
channel, Blondes and Booze, and like, share, and subscribe to their channel. If you haven't done so with ours, please like, share, and subscribe to this one. Hit that little bell icon, and if you want, you can even hit the join button right next to the subscribe button, and that gets you access to extra videos and icons within the chat. Or head over to the Patreon community and you can become part of the future of the DA-verse. So I appreciate you guys joining us. I hope you guys will check out my books. You can find links to all the books and the podcast and everything over at daroberts.net. I hope you can go over to Dixie Cryptid and you can hear 2 of my audiobooks narrated for free by Cameron Buckner from over at Dixie Cryptid. There 2 of the Wild Hunt books are available in their totality. The entire books are over there for you to listen to for free. So head over to Dixie Cryptid and look for Codename Wild Hunt because the first 2 books of the series are already up and the 3rd one is on the way. So I hope you guys will check that out. Appreciate each and every one of you guys joining us tonight. Remember, stories are journeys that we take together. And thank you guys so much for taking this journey with us. We've come a long way in 10 years. Let's see where 10 more takes us. So again, thanks to the ladies of Blondes and Booze. Krista, thank you so much for being here. Brandy, I'm glad you were here. Sorry you were having some computer issues. Too bad Aaron couldn't be here, but we'll see Aaron tomorrow night. And again, thank you guys so much. And make sure you watch Blondes and Booze channel because we will be with them tomorrow night, and it's going to be an awesome time. So I hope you guys will join us then. Hope you guys have a wonderful night, and you all be safe. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.